Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Cabinet on the 24th of November 2023. Remember, we are broadcast live on the website. It is archived, so you can look at it later. Usual stuff, microphones on when you speak and off when you're not speaking. Apologies, we've none. Minutes, pages 3 to 10. I'll move the minutes from the 24th of October. I'll take them read, confirmed and signed. Deborah?
I'll second that.
Show of hands. Thank you very much. Urgent items, none. Declarations of interest, anybody got anything? No, we have none. Annual delivery report and performance compendium 2023, pages 11 to 122. Who's doing that, Richard? You need to go over there, can you? Then we don't get you confused as a member, which you wouldn't want to be doing. So Richard's going to run through the annual delivery report. Focuses mainly on delivery against our priorities as in the strategic plan, and eventually it'll go to full council, I think.
Yeah.
Scrutiny Commission did have a look at this on the 8th of November. Their comments are included. So I've got Richard Wilding from our business intelligence team to present. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Leader. The delivery report continues with the shorter format this year. And the covering report after paragraph 20 sets out really just some of the examples of positive delivery across the themes, and I'll pick out just a few of those. In the clean and green outcome area, these include the net zero strategy, successful bid to deliver 100 EV charge points across the county, launching Green Living Leicestershire and Solar Together, planting nearly 250,000 trees, and also progress on the new solar farm near Quorn. The economy priority saw the launch of the Freeport. That'll create high quality new jobs and boost the East Mids economy by around £8.4 billion. Also work to unlock land at Leeds Farm, which aims to create 120 plus new jobs. Various strands of skills work, including the Multiply programme. In relation to transport, we've seen major construction work started on the North and East Melton Mowbray Distributor Road. We've progressed plans for improvements to junctions along the A511 between Ashby and Colville to help deliver 3,500 new homes. We've also attracted £1.8 million to help support public transport, particularly in rural areas. Great communities work has been maintained, with 500 households supported to open their homes to over 1,000 Ukrainian guests. In that area, we've also been successful in achieving £750,000 of Arts Council England funding to support access to culture over the next few years. In terms of the improved opportunities area, we've seen £22 million allocated from the Household Support Fund. That's to help people with the cost of living crisis. We've also seen the council's biggest ever offering of free holiday clubs over the summer holiday. Other work has included opening 9 out of 25 family hubs across the county and delivering an additional 2,000 school places. Work through the Safe and Well theme includes the launch of a new domestic abuse team, which offers early help to families and adults causing harm. We've also provided an extra £100,000 to continue the rollout of community speed cameras. Public Health has launched a new Healthy Workplaces programme and Health in All Policies approach. The Director of Public Health's annual report is later on the agenda. Lastly, in terms of the delivery report, in adult social care, we've installed over 3,000 pieces of care technology equipment, and 97% of users said they felt more secure afterwards. We're also implementing a new 2-year Better Care Fund plan, and it's worth £75 million this year to deliver more integrated health and social care. So just some examples of really good delivery this year. The Compendium, which is Appendix B, summarises performance over the past year and compares us to other local authorities. It includes the core spending power tables, and they again highlight Leicestershire as the lowest funded county, so with significant funding differentials there from other local authorities, particularly London authorities, and this is making it increasingly difficult to meet service demand. In relation to performance, our benchmarking for last year showed us to be in the top 5 performing counties, with those above us significantly better funded. And our analysis confirms the previous conclusions of consultants in Power that we continue to be the most efficient county. So looking at 2022-23 performance, we saw 80 indicators improved last year, some of them in previously lower performing areas, which is really positive. However, the impact of the pandemic and the economic situation, combined with low service funding, has continued to be felt, and we have seen 74 indicator areas that have worsened compared to last year. So the Compendium also highlights main risks that faces the council. There from paragraph 47 of the report. Also sets out where a continued delivery focus is required. And as the leader just mentioned, the report was considered by Scrutiny Commission on the 8th of November. They were generally positive about having a wide range of performance information in there to look over. And there are some specific comments from paragraph 50 of the report. So the recommendations are set out in paragraph 3. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Richard. I think when you show us that they were the lowest funded, and it's a particularly grim financial circumstances for county councils, I think we've done pretty well to get into the top 5. I mean, you're a statistician. Do you think we do well with the money we've got?
It's a good achievement, but I think it's getting harder each year to sustain that position in light of funding position.
Thank you for that. It was a bit of a leading question. If I'm honest, I'd be ruled out if it was in court. Anyway, I'm happy that what we've done. So I'll move the motion. I think Lee, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, I'm happy to second. I mean, I think the first 2 recommendations, the overall good progress in delivering on council strategic priorities and outcomes as set out in the report. And it also notes the council's current low comparative funding, but with good but under pressure performance position and the financial pressures and risks now facing. So it's a good snapshot of the last 12 months. I always guide people to this document if they want to know and ask the question, what do you do as a county council? And I think it covers that very well. And I think we do. It's good to see that we're acknowledged for being the best performing county council again. But yeah, we have to try and maintain that. So I think that's going to get harder and harder as we go along. So happy to second.
Low funded, efficient and high performing is pretty much what we are. I moved it, Richard Lee seconded it. All in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, Richard. 5, review of homeless support services. It's the outcome of consultation 123 to 218. Health and Overview Scrutiny Committee considered this on November the 1st. Their comments were attached. Committee supported the proposals. We've also received some comments from Amanda on behalf of the Labour Group. These are attached to the order paper for this meeting, Mike 5A. We've got Mike and Joshna here to present. I think you're going to respond to Amanda at the same time, aren't you? So when you've done that, I'll go to Louise, who's got responsibility. Are you doing it, Mike or Joshna?
No, I'm just going to, as you say, it's the feedback on the consultation and then the proposal for the new service, but I'll let Joshna take you through the summary of the consultation findings.
Thank you. So the purpose of this report is to advise the Cabinet of the outcome of the consultation on the proposed delivery model for homeless support and seek approval to cease funding a dedicated homeless support service and instead to provide the support via the Council's existing public health services. So as identified in the report, the Council currently commissions on a discretionary basis a homeless support service which provides support to adults who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. This is currently provided for the Council by Falcon Support Services and Nottingham Community Housing Association. The contract value is £300,000 per annum and the contract ends on the 31st of March 2024. The County Council does not have a statutory responsibility to provide specific services for individuals who are homeless, and the Council is not a recipient of grant funding that is focused on preventing or relieving homelessness. Grant funding, namely the Homeless Prevention Grant and the Rough Sleeping Initiative funds, have been made available to districts to support the delivery of their responsibilities. The Council does, however, have a responsibility around improving the health of its residents. which includes the provision of health improvement information, advice and support services aimed at preventing illness. Following a review of existing provision and a review of need, we pulled together a proposed model which was developed, and that was for the County Council to cease funding the dedicated homeless support service and instead to provide the support via existing public health services. We undertook a public consultation to seek views on this proposed model, and paragraphs 30 to 38 of the report provide further detail on the consultation. The Council received 251 questionnaire responses, as well as over 130 individuals attending the information sessions, and we also received numerous responses via the dedicated email address. Just under half of the questionnaire responses were from those who were or had been supported by the Homeless Support Service, and also from staff of homeless support services. Just under 3/4 of the questionnaire respondents disagreed with the proposal, and out of those who disagreed, just over half were from staff of homeless support services and those who were or had been supported by the service. Respondents were given the opportunity within the consultation to comment on the reasons for their responses, as well as putting forward alternative suggestions for a model, and these are detailed in the tables under paragraph 44 and 47. One of the main themes that came out from the consultation was the perception that the Falcon Centre, which is a homeless hostel located in Loughborough and provided by Falcon Support Services, would close, and the subsequent impact this would have on services that are provided within the centre. The funding for the County Council's Homeless Support Service does not pay for the running of homeless hostel buildings. Other comments that came out of the consultation fell under a few broad themes. One of those was that the elements that were reported or commented on fell outside of the scope of the proposal. So, for example, there were some comments made around the need for more housing. Other comments that were focused on elements that will be covered by the proposed model, for example, focusing more effort on preventing homelessness, which is where we want this service model to be aimed at. And then also elements that will be addressed during the implementation period of the proposed model. So, for example, raising awareness of existing services. So based on the extensive work that has been carried out to date, which includes a review of need, a review of existing provision, a review of responsibilities of the County Council, and a review of the consultation responses, it is recommended to cease funding the Homeless Support Service and instead provide support via existing public health services, with a view to the new model commencing on 1st of April 2024. This will be achieved primarily through the universal offer of First Contact Plus and also through the local area coordination service. And this has the benefit of achieving the financial savings target of £300,000. Further description of First Contact Plus service and the local area coordination service is described within paragraphs 54 to 58 of the report. By pursuing this proposal, the aim is that we are able to provide coverage of the offer across the whole of Leicestershire, rather than being predominantly concentrated within the Falcon Centre. We want to widen the eligibility to include any individual who is at risk of becoming homeless. We want to provide access to support via a central point of access, and we want to place a greater focus on improving the health and well-being of these individuals. If the proposal is approved, the Council will work collaboratively with key stakeholders to strengthen the referral pathways into the service to meet people's needs. This includes the development and implementation of a communications and engagement plan, which is directly in response to the consultation feedback. The Council will also work with the current providers to ensure a robust exit strategy is in place. I don't know whether, would you like me to move on straight to responding to Amanda's comments? Yeah.
Yes, Josh, and carry straight on, then I'll go to Louise when you've finished your presentation. You've done a lot of work down here. Go ahead.
So one of the comments in the response was around the service being described as one service. It is one service, it is one contract, and there are two providers delivering it. The components that are described within the report are elements of the service provision, so they're not three separate entities, they are one service, one contract. And that's why the review was carried out on the service as a whole. In the same vein, it's difficult to then break down the different elements from a financial perspective, as some of the activities are shared across both providers. What we can split out is that Falcon Support Services received 210,000 and NCHA received 90,000. So that's why it's not been analysed based on three different provisions. In terms of the in-reach offer, it is already described within the report. The current service is a discretionary provision that was in place prior to the amendment to the Housing Act. Having the Homelessness Reduction Act and the associated funding has placed greater duties on districts as the housing authority to prevent, relieve homelessness. So the roles and responsibilities have actually changed since the service commenced. And then in terms of the reference to accommodation-based support, a lot of assumptions are being made that the entirety of accommodation-based support provided across Leicestershire is funded through the contract. Just to clarify, Falcon Support Services received £210,000 to deliver components of the current service, and that includes a referral hub, which includes a really comprehensive assessment process. It includes hostel-based support for 30 individuals at any one time. It includes provision of drop-in sessions and also funding for participating in contract management activity, which includes performance management and collating that performance data. So on that basis, the entirety of the 210,000 isn't solely for hostel-based support. Also, what we know is that there's a plethora of support services that operate within the centre, and these support offers are not funded through this contract, and therefore it'd be incorrect to say that the entirety of in-reach support would be lost through termination of this contract. Within that letter, there's also reference to absorbing the current work. And again, in the report, we've clearly stated that we're proposing to cease funding the dedicated homeless support service. So we're not putting forward a like-for-like offer, and therefore we're not saying that public health services will absorb all of the existing work. Instead, the intention is to focus more on upstream work. So we're wanting to look at preventing homelessness in the first place through providing health and wellbeing support to individuals at an earlier stage, rather than waiting for a person to become homeless before we intervene. And then there's reference to complex needs of individuals. The current model focuses on low to medium needs. It was not designed or intended to support those with complex needs. And so the proposed model continues with this approach.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I suppose the important thing for me is actually, I think this new model where Mrs. Hack says that we'd not considered the specialist nature of homeless as a hostel setting. I think it's important to recognise the Falcon Centre is not the only hostel in Leicestershire. And the strengthened model we've got and the strengthened links we'll have with district council housing departments and indeed the other hostels in Leicestershire would enable us to provide that support more comprehensively across all the hostels in Leicestershire. The point about complexity and caseload, Joshua has well made.
Thank you. Louise, one of yours?
Thank you. And first of all, I want to thank the officers for the incredible amount of work that's gone into this proposal, and also for the difficulties they've had working up to this point. I do want to focus on the fact that this is a very small amount of funding we're talking about from the whole of the Falcon Support Services budget. So I do want to reiterate that we don't provide the accommodation, and that I would have expected, knowing that the time was coming up to the end of contract, the plans would be put in place by the charity and that they would have sustainability plans put in. It's normal to review a service at the end of a contract. It's not about the provider, it's about the service and what we want to be able to provide for the health and wellbeing of, we're talking about the homelessness cohort at the moment. But we do look after, or try to look after, all our vulnerable cohorts within our society. There were a number of issues within the consultation about face-to-face and how people can't access the service. Anyone at risk of homelessness can refer themselves or have anybody else refer them into the service. Our LACs will provide, local area coordinators will provide the one-to-one support for people requiring it. The proposal will be a bespoke model. So what the individual needs to try to prevent them getting to crisis point in the first place is where we're trying to target our service. And by working with the districts, we're hoping to be able to pull in about 2,000 people before they get to crisis point county-wide, rather than the blocks we have at present with only 30 people being accommodated in Falcon Centre, and that there are blocks in getting those people moving through. So we're hopeful that this is actually going to deliver a much better service in a lot of ways. And I think I will leave it there, and I will recommend the proposal. Thank you.
Christine?
I'm happy to second that proposal. And again, I'd like to thank the officers for all the work they've done, and certainly what the lead member's been doing on behalf of the county on this matter. Thank you.
Deborah?
Thank you. Just a couple of points from me. Obviously, this is a really emotive and it's a really important service that we do. You know, becoming homeless is horrendous for anybody. So if we can work further upstream to stop people getting into that situation, hitting crisis point, I think that's where we should be targeting what little money we have to do this. Just a few questions for me. I'll ask them all at once and then you can answer me. So you said that the total amount of money that the Falcon service get at the moment is 210,000 from the contract. What I don't know is how much of that is part of the Falcon services overall budget. So I don't know what their income. I know they're a charity and they get benefits and grants, etc. So how much is that 210? And does that pay for all of their support staff within the service as well? And I was just reading some papers that are going to Charnwood's Community Safety, their paper that's going to finance and performance scrutiny next week. And sort of, for example, they get a grant from the Charnwood Community Safety Partnership for £20,000, and that provides a recovery navigator. So I am aware that they're getting other grants and funding from elsewhere that is also helping them with their support staff. So what percentage is there of their overall income is this 210 that we give them through this contract? Does that pay for all their support staff? I think I know the answer to that because I've just read out that they've got a recovery navigator there funded from the community CSP. And I'm taking it that all the people that stay in the Falcon Centre are entitled to council tax benefit to pay for them to stay there. So that's not going to alter at all by any decisions we're making here today.
Yeah, thanks. As you point out, the current provider, the Falcon Support Services, will have a range of funding streams, housing benefit from the people who are staying in there, other grants that they've got, as you pointed out, the rents that they charge for the accommodation for people, which is then claimed back. I think looking at the last set of accounts they filed, their overall group income is just shy of £3 million. I think it's £2.8 million. Of that, ours, the from us, as you say, is £210,000. Not all of that £210,000 is the InReach service. They also receive an element for coordinating with the other consortium member of the current contract. So the actual InReach element is what, about £150,000. Yes, that obviously, it does pay for support staff, because the whole point about the current contract is it provides staff who then would support people in the hostel with their health and wellbeing needs support. But obviously that doesn't represent the totality of the kind of support staff that will be in there. That, you know, I mean, they're not there to do the caretaking, keep the lights on. They are there to provide a specific service.
So that 150k for compact, sorry, leader, that 150k that does the in support is only supporting 30 people at any one time, whereas under our proposed model it can help a lot more people. So it's really hoping, and it's only those people that are at crisis point where our statutory duty is to help them before they get to that crisis point. So we need to get up the other end rather than funding the crisis point. Is that the model that we're now looking to implement instead of this one?
Yeah, again, you know, I think that's right. You know, essentially, this almost gets into kind of reviewing the whole service model. And again, I think one of the key things for me is how do we try and prevent homelessness and improve the health and well-being of a population of people who aren't just rough sleeping or in a hostel, but are at risk of homelessness, at risk of losing their tenancies. So that mix of having the community-based support that Josh just described, the links in with district councils, housing officers, I think that's absolutely key to try and support, to do our bit of the support as best we can with more people across the county.
Just to add as well that when we're talking about temporary accommodation, the focus seems to shift towards hostels, towards Falcon, and actually we're talking about B&Bs, we're talking about those who are sofa surfing. So the numbers are much more significant, and that's the cohort that we also wanted to reach out to.
Sounds like a lot better service to me. Ozzy?
Thank you, Leader. Certainly, you've explained quite a lot there and put my mind in focus now. It seems that this really does give a greater help to more people across Leicestershire who are potentially coming homeless or are homeless, that we really need to look after, because a lot of these people do suffer from various illnesses, and we need to make sure that, you know, we are looking after the homeless. I know the districts do a lot as well, and the LACs, as we call them, the local area coordinators, are a vital point in making contact with people. I've been in close contact with my LAC. They come to the parish council meetings, they work in the community, and they actually find the people that we need to help. So I'm very supportive of the way we're going. We are not going away from helping people. We are improving our help to people across the county. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. And I think it is also worthwhile remembering, you know, what's our overall duty from a public health point of view? It's to take steps to improve the health and well-being of the population, fully recognise that the health of those at risk of homelessness or of rough sleeping or sleeping, you know, in temporary accommodation is really important. It's not as, you know, it's nowhere near as good as the general population. So we need to take the appropriate steps to improve their health. That is a whole different service model from providing accommodation and getting involved in the district council's responsibility.
That's absolutely right. I think this is a good policy, and thank you, Louise, for the work you've done. I know it's been difficult at times, and you, Joshna, from above and beyond where you need to be, so thanks very much. So it was moved by Louise, seconded by Christine. Can we have a show of hands in favour? Thank you very much. Another one from you, Mike. Annual report of the Director of Public Health, Leicestershire's Health, what the Health and Wellbeing Board's dashboard tells us. 219 to 252. This is being considered by the Health Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Their comments are included. You're going to present, aren't you, Mike? And then I'm going to you again, Louise. It's one of yours.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm going to have to do this one on my own. It's a scary thought. You know, where's my support? So as the paper sets out, I have a statutory duty to produce an independent report on the health of the population. You'll quickly realise that I haven't done one since 2019, so welcome to my full yearly annual report, which hopefully you'd understand that COVID wasn't very helpful to me in finding the space and time to consider the health of the population more broadly. However, it is important that I get back on track with producing the annual report, and for this one I wanted to go back to kind of first base, which I could have chosen to do a topic, but I just wanted to sort of lay information out to the public, to yourselves and to partner organisations on how Leicestershire's health is looking. So I asked Victoria Rice, as our public health analyst within the data and business intelligence section, have we got something which just gives me a list of indicators which would describe the health of the population? And she rightly pointed out that we did have one, and it was the Health and Wellbeing Board dashboard. So the reason I've used the Health and Wellbeing dashboard is just trying to avoid duplication. That dashboard itself sets out 100 plus indicators across the life course, as we call it, which is the approach that the Health and Wellbeing Board takes to look at health through birth, growing up, healthy living, working well, and then dying well at the end of life. I won't go through slavishly bit by bit, but paragraphs sort of 16 onwards, I think, highlight the main points for me. As you would expect, Leicestershire's health is really quite good. Over half of the indicators are better than the national average. And we've got some really good successes in paragraph 18. So if you look at our comparative performance, whether you see that as being against the national average or against the kind of sit for comparator authorities. Smoking prevalence, childhood obesity in year 6, increasing vaccination coverage in early years are all worthy of note. With reference to the previous item, addressing homelessness, actually the number of households owed a duty under the Homelessness Reduction Act has fallen between 2022 and 2021. And indeed, a number of indicators related to child development are all worthy of note. I haven't made a huge number of recommendations for other organisations because really, for me, this is about telling that picture of health to them in their meetings, such as the Health and Wellbeing Board. But there are a few things in there that certainly as a department, I think we need to look at reviewing our approach. So physical activity, I think we do a good job at enabling the inactive to be active. But if you look at our comparative performance around trying to get everybody active, it is not as good as it should be. Equally, work around 5 a day. I think we provide an excellent weight management service, but the indicators would suggest we need to do more to improve the diet of, or the awareness, if you like, of the diet of our population. And then air quality, which remains a big issue in terms of planning, is another one where in terms of the PM 2.5 measures, we could do with being better. As we could around what was previously known as excess winter death. So winter mortality index, the number of people who die above and beyond the seasonal average, if you like, in winter, is something that I'd want the department to focus a bit more on. So it comes here on the way to consideration by full council. And as I say, I'd sort of look forward to sharing the detail of this to help inform partner organisations' plans.
Aren't the district councils responsible for physical activity?
No, we've got that. So they've got their kind of leisure responsibility through the leisure centre offer. We're the ones through the public health duty that have got the duty on taking steps to improve the health of the population, of which physical activity would be a big part of it.
Thank you. Louise, this is one of yours.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's a good report, and it's really pleasing to see some of the real positives in there, especially after the COVID pandemic and the recovery thereafter. There are some areas still to improve on, obviously, and I congratulate Mike and his team for the performance indicators. Thank you. Oh, and I move the report.
Thank you. Deborah?
I'll second the motion, and just a couple of points for me. Really good to see the smoking and the obesity. That's really key for me as lead for children and families, so the obesity rates going down is really good. I did as well pick up mental health issues that we're rated one of the tops for suicide prevention, and our mental health offer is really, really good, so that I'm fully aware of the COVID pandemic and how that's left a lot of people with mental health issues, but it's good to see that we're doing a lot about that and making those improvements to the nation. So I've always enjoyed reading your yearly report, so I'm glad to see it back, so very happy to second it.
No other speakers. Moved by Louise, seconded by Deborah. All in favour? Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Leicestershire and Rutland joint living well with dementia strategy 2024 to 2028. The outcome of the consultation. The draft strategy has been looked at again by a Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee on November the 1st, and their comments are set out in the report. We've got John Wilson, Director of Adults and Communities, to present, and I shall be going to Christine, who's got responsibility. Morning, John. Morning, Kate. Go ahead.
Thank you, Leader. So this is the third Living Well with Dementia strategy that's been produced across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. The current strategy, covering the period 2019 to 2022, was extended due to the circumstances caused by the pandemic. The current strategy has a number of areas where there have been good progress and achievements made, and they're laid out at paragraph 16 in the report. But just to pick out a couple of those, within the last period, we've developed a joint strategic needs assessment chapter on dementia. We've managed to procure and deliver a dementia support service, and the County Council's Positive Behaviour Support team has begun a new approach to supporting providers to ensure that people receive good quality services, particularly for those services that deal with more challenging areas. There have been some challenges in delivering the previous strategy, and they're laid out at paragraph 17 and 18, and are particularly concerned with a reduction in diagnosis rates, but also a disparity in diagnosis rates across the Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland area. And as you'll see in the report, Leicestershire and Rutland have significantly worse diagnosis rates than do Leicester City. So the revised strategy has been developed by the County Council together with its partners, and also been co-produced with the Dementia Support Service. Paragraph 24 demonstrates the outcome of a survey conducted by Healthwatch, which involved over 250 people, and found a number of areas of inconsistency, particularly in diagnostic pathways, the availability and access to information, but also in terms of some provision. Consultation on the draft strategy took place from 17th of July through to the 22nd of September of this year. It was accessible online, there were printed copies made available, and there were focus groups held. It's a very successful consultation. In total, there were 319 responses, of which 206 related directly to the county. Appendix C of today's report gives the detail of those 206 responses. But overall, I think the summary is that the consultation indicated broad agreement with the aims identified, and majority of people agreeing that the actions listed in the strategy will be beneficial. There were some areas that were identified for further consideration, particularly the cessation of the Admiral Nurse provision, the memory assessment service, and some areas around health and care delivery, particularly around training needs for health and care staff. So we've developed a delivery plan for the county, and that's attached to Appendix B. The Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee considered the draft strategy on the 1st of November, and comments are within the report, paragraphs 40 to 44. And in conclusion, summary, I think it's fair to say that many of the comments that we received within the consultation, where further development was required or where there were concerns, did focus particularly on healthcare provision, particularly and specifically the Admiral Nurse provision and improvements to the memory assessment service. But we also recognise that there are further work to do around the join-up between health and care services. So subject to approval, the revised strategy would be implemented from January 24. Thank you.
Christine?
Yeah, I'd like to propose recommendations here. This report went to both adults and communities and the Health and Overview Scrutiny Committee, which I attended both committees and I was able to speak. The strategy supports people with dementia across LLR, which is Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. Excuse me, I'm going to change my glasses. I can't see the other one. Challenges to be addressed by the strategy included a reduction in diagnosis rates due to COVID and a disparity in diagnosis rates in the county compared to the city, and the ceasing of the Admiral Nurses service. These nurses were financed by the NHS, and nothing is done by the county, the three councils. So there was a lot of concern about the Admiralty nurses being not carried on. The consultation went through a variety of channels and meetings, and there was significant input from Healthwatch and people with lived experience of dementia. And concerns were also raised regarding the need for more community support and specific training. So I'd like to say that this strategy is very good, thorough strategy. And I hope I'm not going to be one of the recipients of it, but none of us know, of course. And I'm sure some of us have got the people who've had dementia in our family. So I'd like to recommend this report.
Thank you, Christine. Louise?
I'm happy to second. I'm really pleased with the work going on to actually get diagnosis clinics out into the county. Yeah. I think it's really important. So happy to support.
No other speakers. All in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you, John. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah.
8, charging for social care and support policy 305 to 374. Adults and Communities Overview Scrutiny Committee have looked at it and considered the proposed changes on the 6th of November. Please say they were supportive, John. So if you want to walk us through it, I shall go to Christine.
Thank you. So this policy just sets out how the council will undertake financial assessment in relation to residential and non-residential care and support services. A robust and up-to-date comprehensive charging policy is required to ensure that the council can continue to charge and collect contributions, but also the policy assists people to know what they might be charged for services. The revisions within the policy provide additional clarification and wording to reflect that the policy is reflective of the council's exercising its discretion to charge adults towards the cost of services as per the Care Act. But the policy also now highlights that we now have an online care contribution estimator on the council's website to allow people more access to information and advice. As detailed in Appendix B, there are a number of clarifications to wording. They don't change the principles upon which we charge or the principles upon which we assess, but they do make a number of clarifications, particularly areas around where people are allowed to retain additional income, where housing costs are taken into account, and where we take account of, or how we take account of, absences for planned care. In addition, there are a number of areas of policy where we've wanted to reinforce some of the wording or some of the principles, particularly around where we can refuse a request for a preferred choice of accommodation in a care home where we determine that it may be unaffordable either to the council or to the individual. Some clarifications around the minimum income guarantees and methods for assessing for residential and non-residential care, and particularly where there's a partner involved. We've got quite a complex process at the moment. We're trying to simplify that process. And we're adding a number of areas in terms of disability-related expenditure to make sure that people have sufficient resources available to them after the council have charged them. So the consultation, subject to Cabinet approval, will run for 8 weeks. We'll make it available to the general public, to people who draw support through advocacy groups. Due to the technical detail in parts of the policy, we are seeking some additional advice from the Leicestershire Equalities Challenge Group to ensure that the consultation can be accessible as possible. Comments from Adults and Communities Overview Scrutiny Committee are within the report paragraphs 28 through to 32, and the equality impact implications are detailed from paragraph 33 onwards. Screening did indicate that there will be mainly positive outcomes from the proposals, particularly the partner adjustments, albeit there could be a mixed impact as a result of some of the changes to how we assess for short-term residential care. And for some people they could be positive, but for others they could be negative depending on the individual circumstances. Thank you.
Very good, John. Christine, this is one of yours.
Thank you, Leader. As reported by the officer, the policy sets out how many county charges adults who receive care and support services in line with the Care Act 2014. It updates an existing published policy. The policy makes it clear that, unlike the NHS, social care is usually not free of charge at the point of need. A person should expect to pay towards the cost of care and support services, and their contribution will depend on their financial and personal circumstances, which John outlined. The policy makes it clear how county will conduct a financial assessment and assess their charges based on information they provide on their capital income. The main changes concern clarification in wording to reduce ambiguity and reinforce some of the provisions in the existing policy, which John highlighted. The council is not proposing to change the charges themselves or the principles of the charging and assessment. We will be asking people, their support networks, for their views of the proposed changes and the policy overall. There will be opportunities to provide feedback and how we can improve it further. Thank you. I'm happy to propose this recommendation.
Thank you. Lee?
Yeah, I'm happy to second, fully support the need for this and to bring it up to date. And as John said, simplify the process as well. And I'd ask everyone out there to engage with the consultation process. Thank you.
Excellent. Moved by Christine, seconded by Lee. All in favour? Thank you very much. Nine, Leicestershire Local Flood Risk Management Strategy, Public Consultation, Outcomes and Publication. It sets out the roles and responsibilities of the council, partners and the public on how flood risk will be managed. Highways and Transport Overview and Scrutiny Commission have looked at this at its meeting on the November 9th, and its comments are in the report. We've got Anne, who's the Director of Environment and Transport. Then I should go to Ozzy, who's got responsibility. Anne.
Good morning. We're seeking approval of this final strategy that's put before you today, and we produced this strategy as the lead local flood authority. It sets out the roles and responsibilities of the relevant stakeholders and also the principles to which all those parties will operate in relation to managing flood risk in the county. We consulted on the draft strategy. It was required updating to reflect the latest national policy as well as the findings of that review scrutiny panel that leaders already mentioned. We consulted from June to August this year. We had 254 responses, and a breakdown of the respondents and the geographic area of the spread we got and the engagement is given in paragraph 33 and 34 of the report. The overwhelming majority were supportive of the strategy principles and objectives, and while no significant changes have been made as a result of that public consultation or the comments from H&T Scrutiny, the Highways and Transport Scrutiny and Overview and Scrutiny Committee, there are some minor changes in the document, and they are stated in paragraph 48, mostly around clarification of some of the terms in technical aspects of the document. We also took on board comments about the length of the document, and hence this final thing before you is a shorter version, and we've put more into technical appendices so it's more user-friendly across the community. We're seeking approval for that final strategy as appended Appendix B, and the action plan to that is Appendix C, and the recommendations as per the order paper.
Ozzy?
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to say what we have done. There's a lot of work gone into this strategy. Flooding is an absolute nightmare to families and people across Leicestershire when they've been impacted on this. And over the last few years, we've had quite a few events of flooding due to climate change. The work that has gone into this provides the strategy that we can actually fall back to work with the community to help them when we have problems. The dedicated team that we have on the flooding department is very small, and a lot of work has been put into this by a very small team, and I would like to congratulate those teams for the hard work that they've done putting this together, but the work they do across our county, working with our communities when we have such events, and the prevention that we do to help the county ease themselves from flooding. So I am very happy to move this report, and I say again, I want to thank the dedicated team that have put this together. Thank you.
Blake, you're seconding this, aren't you?
Yes, I'm very happy to second the report and concur with the proposer of the motion. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy with it. I mean, it's difficult being the lead local flood authority, and the members of the public do not particularly understand the role of the lead local flood authority. So anything will help to explain to them what our role is. And Ozzy's thanked the whole team. There's one lady I want to single out who I have experience with, and she calls herself Tor, but I think her name's Victoria Coombs. I mean, she's an incredible worker in your team. So I'm sorry I only mentioned one, but she's the one that I come across the most, and she's very, very good. Moved by Ozzy, seconded by Blake. Can we have a show of hands in favour? Very good, thank you. 10, 23-24 local cycling and walking infrastructure plans, programme and outcome of consultation on the Loughborough area and south of Leicester area plans. Again, Highways and Transport have had a look at this. Their comments are just included. We've got the usual commenter, which is from Max, who's a big cyclist, as you know. His are attached to the order paper marked 10A. This is one of yours again, Anne, and then it's one of Ozzy's, so I'll go to you, Anne.
Thank you again. Yes, LC WIPs, that natty acronym we've got for those local cycling walking infrastructure plans. These are the first two we're bringing to the Cabinet. We do have a programme of LC WIPs for across the county. So Loughborough and the area south of Leicester, the first two we have developed and bringing for approval. We have a cycling and walking strategy, and that aligns with the national government cycling and walking strategy called Gear Change. But under our cycling and walking strategy, we have these what we call LC WIPs, and it really is about identifying a detailed network of cycling and walking infrastructure we would like to see delivered over the next decade or so. So it's that next level of detail down about the practicalities of what you'd see in an area. We have the Loughborough one, just to be clear, doesn't cover just Loughborough. It covers Loughborough, Shed and Quorn, and the area south of Leicester covers basically what we know as the principal urban area just surrounding the city itself. Appendix A has a map showing those areas. We've consulted on them, included sessions with county, district and parish councillors, as well as the public consultation. So it's quite extensive, and we also held an information event in Obi, which our lead member attended as well. The final round of consultation with the public and members and of all tiers of local authority took place in August to September this year. And as you've mentioned, Leader, we also went to the H&T Scrutiny Committee, and their comments are in paragraph 87. In terms of resourcing, because I think it's really important to highlight this point, we do get funding from Active Travel England to help with capacity within the authority to deliver the strategies themselves. However, the actual funding of the infrastructure will be entirely down to bidding for funding through the likes of Active Travel England or through developer contributions as new developments come forward, because the actual real value of these strategies is the evidence base to actually bid for funding or to seek those developer contributions. So really must say that the pace of delivery will depend on our ability to secure funding. The authority itself does not have funding to deliver on these. Again, as you mentioned, Leader, Mr. Hunt has submitted some comments saying, just maybe if I could take a minute to address some of those. He asked why the main focus for Loughborough is the town centre and rather the housing developments where, trips will be generated or journeys start. The network that the LC WIP sets out, it connects those key areas of growth, but actually in order to get funding from government, you have to focus on the areas that provide the greatest potential benefit to the most number of people, i.e. the biggest bang for your buck, hence therefore why we've kind of focused on the town centre there. Mr. Hunt also suggests 20 mile an hour in the town centre is the best way to encourage cycling and walking. This was raised in consultations actually when we consulted on the Loughborough Area 1, and that possibility is referred to on page 66 of the LC WIP, so we do kind of cover that. However, what I would say is any proposal for a 20 mile an hour limit is subject to our normal processes in that consultations and including with the police. And I'd also reflect that the government's recent plan for drivers has put strong messages out there against authorities implementing 20 mile an hour zones, which is another consideration. So finally, we're just seeking approval for these first two LC WIPs, but I just caveat there that we will be coming forward probably next spring with the next two for Cabinet to consider. Thank you, Leader.
Those 20 mile an hour zones have been particularly unpopular in Wales, haven't they?
They have, absolutely. And really the principle is, for years in implementing these is you either have to have speeds below 24 and less, but 24 miles an hour, or you have to put in physical traffic calming measures to slow traffic down. Putting a sign up itself from a 30 to a 20 does not automatically lead people to drive slower. So then you get more and more discontent about enforcement, etc. And if people don't perceive there's a need to drive that slow, that's where you get some of the reactions maybe that Wales has seen.
Had that very question and tried to explain that to people in some of my villages. Ozzy, this is one of yours.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I fully support this programme. I went to the consultation and listening to the cycling clubs and the people that attended, they want to get more freedom on the roads. Now, what we need to do, we need government more actively supporting councils to pay for this, because as Anne said, it will take quite a long time to actually put this into process where we're having to bid. Now, officers spend a lot of time making bids out and we're not always successful, and that is a lot of officer time that we do use. And as you know, we're one of the lowest funded county councils, but one of the most efficient in the country. And it's about time that our government, started to give us some money to actually put this in progress, because they're always pumping out that we need to get fitter, that we need to use cycling, that we need to walk. Well, this is a programme that officers have put together that we can actually achieve that. Now, we need the funding to do that. And I totally support the programme and the way that we are working, but it could be put into place a lot faster if government gave us the funding. I'm happy to move this, Liam.
Better to give us the money to actually do it rather than to bid all the time, and we're constantly bidding. I'm seconding this. Louise, you're doing this.
I'm happy to second. Obviously, it links in with the health of the population, but it is really important that residents are aware that this will take time, because we don't have the funds at county. We have to bid. So, yes, happy to support.
Christine, you're going cycling around Shepshed then, are you?
All the houses I'm getting. No, I think it's a good policy, but I think the new developments and all the new houses that's going around the area, then the builders, the estate, the planners and what have you, have got to look at providing the roads or the infrastructure for people to walk and to cycle, because in some cases the roads are that narrow, no pavements at all. I know you're not supposed to cycle on the pavements, but when the roads are very narrow, it's quite dangerous. So I think we've got to start looking at the planning and the planning departments when they're approving some applications.
Good point. Blake, are you a cyclist?
I try to be occasionally, and I very much enjoy cycling. Just want to concur with what the Lee members said. We potentially have two future MPs sitting in this room today, so I look forward to when Peter Bedford and Craig Smith can make those very comments in the House or with the Department of Transport once elected, and ensure that Leicestershire do get a greater share of the pie, so to speak, to roll out these kind of schemes. But just on that point, the report says we've had £360,000 from Active Travel England, and I know the authority had a really good meeting with Active Travel England some months ago. What prospect is there of Active Travel England further funding the development of these schemes?
Actually, as Cabinet's probably aware, we were unfortunately assessed to zero originally, with Active Travel England assessed all authorities in terms of your commitment, etc., to cycling and walking. That meant we couldn't bid for their capital funding. We have, however, been working closely with Active Travel England to improve, to get to a point we are scoring higher so that we can do that. And just out of interest, and that's been going very positively. I was at a conference last week and I was talking to Danny Williams, who's the Chief Exec of Active Travel England, and he basically opened the conversation with Leicestershire is doing really well. So, I'm very hopeful that we are going to be in a position that we can bid for that capital funding. So outlook is positive.
Yeah, I think so. It was a bit of a shame we got scored zero. I think it's because we fetched that stuff out down in Burstow, which everybody wanted us to fetch out. Even the local member of parliament at the time wanted us to fetch it out. We fetched it out and then they score us zero. Can you reply to Max? Will you be replying to Max? I mean, I know he can be a bit pernickety, but he generally, his heart's in the right place when it comes to biking. All in favour, moved by Ozzy, seconded by Blake. Thank you. Oh, sorry, was it seconded by Louise? Sorry, Blake. Seconded by Louise. Sorry, Louise. That's the only mistake I've made so far. Items referred from overview and scrutiny. We have none. It's good. Any items that the chairman has decided to take as urgent? We have none. So thank you very much. Have a good weekend. We're done.